All right, I think I'm gonna start on this thing. Let me know if the audio is okay, guys. But hey, everybody! This is the first of hopefully a few streams that I'm going to be doing for what I am calling Project Monstrosity, which is a font that is inspired by the Pokemon series, or I should really say the Pokemon logo. But yeah, this is a new font that I'm working on, a completely original font, and I'm just going to be working on some of the vector stuff because I've got a lot of the sketches already done. So yeah, I'm just going to start tracing, and you've probably noticed that none of the alphabet is visible, and that is because I'm trying to keep that under wraps for now, just in case people get any ideas of trying to use my sketches and beat me to the punch. So just so you know, you're not going to be able to see those yet, but you'll probably get some ideas of what they look like from some of the other characters that are on screen right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. But let me just pull up the chat real quick so I can see what you guys are saying. Do I think I'll ever reach 1 million subs? I do not think that. No. That would be ridiculous crazy. Let's see. Where should I start? Let's see. Let's do some ligatures. Why not? Yeah, this is a completely original font. I mean, obviously 6 of the characters are based on the Pokemon logo, but they're not exactly the same. And so there's going to be differences between my fonts Pokemon and the Pokemon logos. So let's see. Hopefully Illustrator behaved itself during this because it is chugging a little bit. Let's see. I need some black. There we go. That should be fine. When will Zelda fight start? That is a good question. You're gonna have to bother Chris about that because he's sort of the one heading that up. Um, so yeah, if you want to know about Zeldafied, go bug Chris on Twitter. Let's see. I should probably put this opacity lower so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see, 50. There we go. I gotta say, man, like, a lot of people put a lot of effort into their YouTube content and they don't make it to 1 million. It's a really tough world out there. If I ever got there, it'd be because I dedicated like my entire focus to that. But I don't think I want to do that because my aspirations are not really in the YouTube space. So, hey, EB boy, Eb boy, what's going on here is I'm working on a font tentatively called Project Monstrosity. It is based on the Pokemon logo, but it is not a copy of the Pokemon logo. So it will be wholly original in as much as a derivative thing can be original. I saw that Hugachaka. Yeah, I don't think the Grumps are gonna see it, but whatever. I don't really care if they see it or not. I mean, it'd be really cool if they did see it, of course, but I kind of made it to be stupid. Get to 100. What's wrong with this slider? Thank you. A lot of these characters that I'm doing right now, I have no idea what they're used for. Like this L with a cross in it, or like a strike through it. I don't know what this is for, but I've got to include it for the sake of, comprehensiveness. The sketches were done in Photoshop, by the way, if you're curious. The music you're listening to right now is from Pokemon. And I couldn't tell you where from because I haven't played a Pokemon game since Blue. Apparently it's from Alpha, Omega Ruby, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But you'll have to ask an actual Pokemon fan about what it's from specifically. And I believe this is what they call a sharp S. I believe it's used in languages like German and things like that. Random question. Have you ever heard of a game called Graffiti Kingdom for the PS2? I don't think I have. Sounds interesting. What's the premise? What is my opinion on the Super Mario 256 font? You know what? I'm not actually that familiar with it. I'm sure I've seen it. I've seen, as far as I can tell, all of them, but I don't remember which one is called what. There is one out there that I think is based on some of the more modern Mario games. But there's an older font out there, a Super Mario font that's really crappy. I'm not going to name any names, but I can't remember which of these sharp S's did I want to use. I think I wanted this one actually, so I'm gonna. Well, I'll just do them both. I might as well. I'm already in the middle of it. Illustrator is definitely struggling to perform properly with all of the stream stuff running. But hopefully it's not too much of a hindrance. I'm definitely going slower than I normally would. I'll have to figure that out for next time, probably. Is it like an MMO, Graffiti Kingdom? Like, or did it just not sell well? Or is it a multiplayer online kind of game that has a player base? I'll say this. I'll be general. I think most game-based or game logo-based fonts out there are really bad. There's a few exceptions. I know there's some people who made a Pikmin one based on the ones that they use in game for dialogue and things like that, and they did a pretty good job with the tracing as far as I can tell, at least from a glance. But I feel like I don't have to mention my opinion of Triforce, and I don't mean to speak poorly of the people who made those fonts. I mean, they were made for free, probably a long time ago, and as a hobby. And typically, when you do something as a hobby, you're not necessarily doing the best job that somebody could out there. So, and a lot of people who make fonts like that aren't like formally trained in typography or anything like that. So they don't necessarily know like what to look out for, what problems to avoid. What are you using? I'm currently using Adobe Illustrator for these vectors. The software that I use to actually create the font file itself is called Glyphs. It's Mac only. mostly because the world of typeface creation is largely done on Mac in this day and age. Couldn't tell you why. I mean, generally, graphic design is traditionally done on Apple products. It's just the way it is. Well, I majored in graphic design in college, so I took a lot of design-related classes. Among them was typography, calligraphy. Um, I mean, I taught myself Photoshop largely before I went to college, so a lot of the tools that carry over from Photoshop into Illustrator I already knew how to use. Yeah, design technology is a class I took. Some of these contours are really gross right now. It is that, Mayor Smashville. It is not a B. I am, in fact, not going to be working on any of the Latin alphabet at all during this stream, or maybe even any of the streams. I'm not sure. I've actually already done all of the Latin alphabet, or at least first goes at all of the Latin characters. So, all of these streams are going to be special characters and punctuation and things like that. I'm keeping the alphabet a secret for now, just so that people don't get any ideas of trying to make the font file before I can. It's all for the sake of protecting the property, I suppose you could say. I don't remember what this character is technically called in the languages that actually utilize it. I've heard it called a sharp S because it's actually an S sound, which is strange to Americans because it looks like a B. You'd expect it to make a B sound of some kind, but it makes an S sound. This song is intense. Would I prefer Smash 4 Deluxe or Smash 5? To be honest, I'd be okay with not getting a Smash until Smash 5. If I want to play Smash, I always have my Wii U. I feel sorry for the people who didn't get a Wii U that missed out on Smash 4. But I think I'd be more interested in seeing what they could do with another game, even if they use the same engine, honestly. Like, I wouldn't expect that much of a graphical upgrade from Smash 4. But I mean, you don't have to redesign or retweak any of the movesets that are pretty balanced now. So I'm okay with just getting Smash 5, but I don't expect to be getting that anytime soon, obviously. Let's see. Let's do this one. This is called a thorn. Not a thorn, it's called thorn. I don't know what sound it's supposed to make. I would guess that it makes a TH sound based on the name, but I couldn't tell you. I will say that this typeface is going to be a lot more fully featured than the current version of Hylia Serif, which I am planning on getting back to eventually to sort of finish it out, add all of the accents and diacritical marks and things like that, but I've been kind of busy. And you'd think I'd do that first before getting to this, but I couldn't wait. I mean, sometimes when you're on a project, and you have ideas for another project, you just want to start on the new one. And that's sort of what happened with this one, where I didn't quite finish Hylia Seraph yet. But I do think some characters would, when I say characters, I'm talking about Smash again. I think some characters could use moveset overhauls, honestly. Like, I get that they want to not alienate certain players of those characters from past games, but seriously, it's Ganondorf. I feel so sorry for him because they made him a clone when he did not deserve to be a clone, and now he's stuck with a Captain Falcon moveset, and I don't like it. But I'm sure you've heard this sentiment done to death, so I'm not going to beat the dead horse. Wait a minute. That's not how this character works. Silly me. Nope, that's not what I want. Out of curiosity, guys, I'm thinking of really pursuing this whole make fonts out of game stuff, but I'm not really sure what other fonts or games people are looking for fonts for. Like, Splatoon is a big one because it's sort of like a lifestyle game where people play it for hours and hours and hours because it's one of those games that you can sink as much of your life as you really want because it's a multiplayer game. But like I could, like if someone wanted me to make an F-Zero font, I mean, how many people would use something like that? I'm sure there are people out there who would love something like that, but the use cases are pretty small. So I'm wondering what other typefaces could be made based on game stuff that haven't been made well yet. Like, one idea I had was to make one based on the Pikmin logo, but not the flowery one. The one in Pikmin 3 during the cutscene where they're like all spacey and it's a solid white Pikmin 3 logo. I think that's a nice looking typeface or basis for a typeface. Arms uses a font. Well, not the logo, but the game itself uses a font called, I think it's called Akko, Akko, which I believe, like, even though the Arms wiki uses that now. Yeah, I don't know. Because it's tough. A lot of the logos out there are drawn not based on fonts, but some of the logos out there are definitely based on fonts. Like Smash logo is is a font in Japan. I have thought about a Metroid themed one, especially based on the most recent Samus Returns game, which had a nice straight on Metroid logo rather than the really heavy perspective one that's often used in previous games. So that could be kind of fun. Another one I thought of is maybe the Fire Emblem logo, which I don't believe is a typeface, but I could be wrong. I don't really know how to search for a font like that. Kirby, that could be interesting actually. I want to eventually put together a website dedicated to well-made game fonts, and not necessarily by me either. Like it could be other artists that make ones out there that are like I see no reason to replace something like Project Paintball that's used for Splatoon, or Splatfont 2, which is the one from Splatoon 2. So I could easily feature those well-made fonts on there, but I definitely want to be able to like curate the best ones and leave out the crap, because there's a lot of crap out there, especially on the font. That's just one of those places that features a lot of free type that is great for creators, but you know. I don't know how often people stop to use these F ligatures. For those of you who aren't familiar with typeface lingo, or typography lingo, a ligature is a combination of two letters, which are often used to make a more appealing or like harmonious combination of two letters that otherwise don't go well together. For example, lowercase f and lowercase I, when they're next to each other, they kind of make like they kind of battle each other out, um, for the lack of better words. Um, but so typographers and type designers would create combinations of F and I so that when they're put together or next to each other, they kind of look a lot prettier. And I don't know if the spacing on these is right yet, but it's something that I appreciate about a good font, is that they contain ligatures. And you don't even have access to them unless you have, like, let's say, Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign, because I mean some fonts, like OpenType fonts, might automatically inject a ligature when you type two letters that have a compatible ligature in the typeface. But otherwise, people don't really know about them. Hey, Harry Price, I'm glad to see that you're glad to see me streaming. What are some of my favorite fonts? Ooh, good question. I'm a big I'm a big fan of Avenir, which is actually what they use on buttons for Wii and Switch and 3DS. And I think even in some of Nintendo's branding, they use Avenir. I am also one of those scrubs that really enjoys Helvetica. Not that it's like the most crazy or interesting font out there, but just its ubiquity, I think, is very interesting. I think the history of Helvetica is very interesting. I like geometric fonts a lot, like Avant-Garde. Century Gothic is one of my least favorite of the geometric fonts. Chaos Knight, Smashify is sort of on a hiatus. We're slowly picking away at certain other things, other projects under Smashify, but it's been a bit slow going just because a lot of us have sort of started building out other projects. And so Smashify, especially with Smash Hype sort of having died down a lot already, it's been difficult for us to keep it going the way we used to. But we do still have projects in the pipeline that we're planning on putting out sometime. So it's definitely not done, but it's sort of on hold indefinitely. But there is a project that I'm working on for Smashify that we've actually been working on for months, or started working on months ago and never got to finish. So that's probably the one that you'll see next. Not sure when, probably next month. In fact, I'm going to try to make it a goal to get it done next month. So there you go. Remember when Apple announced a Helvetica Ultra Thin? Everyone was like, why did they announce a font on stage? I don't remember that press conference, actually. But it's not surprising that they would do something like that. They do seem to hype up some of the silliest things. What's the best way to approach this contour? I'm trying to keep the anchor points clean. Was that before they announced San Francisco as their new typeface for the OS? I'm guessing that's what it was. I'm sure some of you are wondering why I'm being so like slow about where to put my anchor points and things like that. I try to keep my anchor points extremely clean because it does have a bearing on like how consistent a curve looks. I know that a lot of people who are not professional designers don't pay that close attention to their vector paths, and it looks really bad to me, at least. I mean, it's one of those things that like a trained professional sees as bad, where other people, like regular people, they don't see a difference at all and it doesn't matter. So really, it doesn't matter. But I'm very proud of my discernment when it comes to vectors and things like that. So I try to keep things clean. Let's copy this, paste it, use it as a basis for this line. There we go. That's the stuff right there. There's something about that doesn't look right. Like, see, even this right here, something is wrong with this curve. I'm not sure what yet, but I'm going to figure it out. It's better. I think at this point I should probably just combine these two. Yeah. I did take a digital photography class while I was in design school. It was a beginner course, but it definitely helped a lot. I'm just going to go ahead and replace this oval. Oops. I don't even know what this character is, honestly. I think it's a type of D. What programs do I use for music and art? For music, I use Logic Pro 10, and for art, I use all kinds of things like Photoshop, Illustrator, mostly Photoshop, but whatever the task calls for, really. But I mean, for video work, I do Premiere Pro, After Effects. Yes, I am using Adobe Illustrator right now. Let's do some of these guys. These guys should be easy. No one's ever going to get this close to a period. But you know what? I care that much. Is this confusing? It's pretty straightforward to me, but I realize that not everybody is familiar with typography at this level. Any advice for younger artists? Make art a lot, as often as possible, because that's the only way to get better. And if you really like it, then maybe go into it professionally, because not everybody who enjoys art and making art should go professional. But if you really like it and you want to get serious about it, definitely consider it. But realize that making it in the art world is really hard, because it's very competitive and saturated, and there's a lot of people out there who aren't recognized because there's a lot of luck involved, and people skills and networking that you have to do. But nothing that you can't overcome if you're serious about it. So, but I mean, make art. It's simple, but you gotta do it as often as possible because that's the only way you improve. And not only that, but seek criticism and take it to heart. Learn how to learn, because the art world is all about teaching yourself. And if you can swing getting formal training in the school, that's great. But even there, you're largely going to be the only one looking out for you is yourself. And so you kind of have to teach yourself to be ahead of everybody else. And the program that I use to put together the typeface, the actual font files, is called Glyphs. It's only on Mac, so if you don't have a Mac, you're out of luck for Glyphs. At least there's plenty of Windows compatible font software out there. Much more expensive usually, but I use Glyphs. Oh, I guess another piece of useful advice that I like to tell people when they're into creating art, or they're beginning at creating art, is make sure you learn the fundamentals of art. It's always great to look up tutorials on how to do very specific things like specific styles or how to draw specific characters or anything like that. But until you learn the fundamentals of art and you can speak on it eloquently or competently at least, you're going to have a really hard time being flexible. So seek out fundamentals of art and learn how to understand why like composition works, why colors go together, how shapes and contrast and emphasis work, and you'll have a lot better time. I mean, even learning how to draw realistically or how to observe and draw what you see is important, because until you learn how to draw like reality, then it's difficult to learn how to deviate from reality in a way that's effective. And a lot of people like who draw like anime don't necessarily learn fundamentals of realism and things like that, and as such everything that they do is based on other anime, and it's very inbred, if I could use a word that people sometimes like to use, where everything is derivative of other things in that style, and it becomes very generic. So understanding like where anime got its conventions and why they draw things the way they do, you'll be better off because you'll understand when to use those conventions or when to create your own conventions for how to draw eyes or how to draw a face or things like that. Oh, hello. Let's let go of the mouse there. There you go. Will Smashfight ever make consistent episodes again? If I'm being honest, probably not. But yeah, I mean, to be frank, YouTube was never my end goal. Like being a YouTuber was never my end goal when it came to creating things. To me, Smashified has always just been one step in the journey, and so I've always wanted to go on to bigger and better things. And that's not to say that I want to like just drop it all together and abandon it, but I do have other aspirations that I am trying to pursue now. So it's going to be harder to do YouTube content for me. But I mean, I'm going to keep trying. and do it as often as possible. It's been a while since I hit Command S. Better do that. Okay, there is an example of some bad curves right there. See these? This is bad anchor point placement right here, in a nutshell. I mean, that's better, but it's still not great. Okay, I think that's usable. Dennis, I am currently working on a game that I have not yet shared with anybody on a public scale, but it's a project that I've been working on. Well, I started working on it with a friend of mine back in 2013, and then things got super busy, and so we stopped around like January of 2014. Then we picked it up again this year, and we've been working on it since January, and I'm going to show it to you guys eventually. But for now, you'll just have to wait. We want to get it to a state where it's presentable, which sometimes it feels like that state will never come, and we just have to show what you have and hope for the best. But be on the lookout. I'll be sharing something about it in the future, in the not too distant future. This font will be available for download. Yes. I am contemplating whether or not I should make this one a paid font, affordable but paid, if I'm going to be continuing to expand it to be fully featured, because the reason fonts are so expensive is because they're so much work to produce. I mean, a lot of the free fonts that you find out there have maybe capitals and lowercase and numbers and some of the common punctuation, but they don't have everything. Especially like Greek and Cyrillic, and every single currency symbol, all of the fractions, all of the superscripts and subscripts and ligatures and alternates. And I really want to make this font like really fully featured. So there might be a time where I start charging money for this once it's out there. But we'll see. And when I say affordable, I really mean that, because I want this to be available for people to use. Like fonts out there can be hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars for a full family of typefaces. This will be nowhere near that. This will be very affordable for an average person, even if you have to save up a couple of weeks allowance for it or something. If you're a younger person out there who has an allowance. But I assure you that this won't be like prohibitively expensive for people to use. And I mean, that's really the difference between all the free fonts out there and all the paid ones, is that the people who are making them for free, they don't feel like putting that much work into it because it's not worth the $0 that they're getting for it. So I really want people to use this in a big way. I've actually considered doing a Patreon for font creation, but I'm not sure if that's really a viable model for this kind of thing, this kind of product. But I don't know, maybe. The trouble with donations is it's slower, much slower of a revenue stream, which means you can't dedicate as much time to it. Like open source software, the reason iteration on those are slower is because not as many people can contribute or dedicate as much time as you would for software that you pay a subscription fee for. So we'll see. I'm still juggling those kinds of thoughts right now. But that is the benefit to making a completely original font. Like Hylia Serif, I couldn't even think to monetize that because I didn't design it. It's all tracings from the game. Whereas this is actually something that I'm creating from scratch, based on something, inspired by something, but it's definitely its own thing. And there's a reason I'm not going to call this font anything remotely. Well, I guess it could be remotely related to Pokemon, but like the word Poke is not going to be in the name of this typeface. I guess the word Pocket is free game. Like they don't own that, but I'll see what feels the most appropriate when it's complete. I'll definitely have to test the waters as far as how much or if I should charge it. Because you're right, a lot of the people out there are probably going to either skip it or pirate it. That's just one of the realities of typeface production, is that people often pirate fonts that they should be paying for. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so did you know that there's a symbol called a per mil? A per mil sign, and it stands for 1,000th of a thing. I'm not sure which of these ampersands I like more. I'll just do both of them for now. I imagine I won't actually, the final ampersand's not going to look like either of these. It's going to be some kind of mixture or tweak or version, iteration of one of these. So I might as well just do one, and then I can move the points later. It's the beauty of vectors, is that nothing is set in stone. Everything is flexible. Sounds like a remix for a Zelda song. Sounds kind of like the Dark World. I bet Sunder, Jimmy Sunder, SunderCR on YouTube will be happy to learn that I'm working on this because he's one of the people who recommended to me that I should make a Pokemon related typeface. So hopefully he gets around to using it on the decks if he still does editing for the decks. I'm not sure that he does though. Couldn't tell you. Will I be collaborating with any YouTuber in the future? I guess it depends on what you consider a collaboration. Like creating a project, I'm sure I would probably do that at some point, but nothing's been really offered to me. I mean, I've participated in like Yo Schiller's videos before. In fact, I recently did a video with Yo Schiller for some Splatoon gameplay, which was fun. I killed them all because I'm way too into Splatoon right now, and I don't think any of them were quite as into the meta or serious competitive play as I am. But yeah, you should go watch that if you're interested in seeing me like interact with other people, which is a rarity. Something's wrong with this curve. This reminds me of like a lot of Sonic music as well. Just that slap bass and a lot of the riffs and chord progressions are very Sonic-y, which I guess shouldn't be surprising. There's a lot of the same influences in Japanese culture for music. Why are they disgusting? They're less than professional because they're probably not made by professionals. Because professionals honestly have better things to do than make a font based on a Pokemon logo. Which begs the question, why am I doing it? Well, because I haven't learned my lessons yet. But I think the community deserves some professional work. Oh, that's why. What country slash area, as in like what inspiration, like how Alola is based on Hawaii and Unova is based on what? In New York? I think I'm confused. Again, I haven't played a Pokemon game since Blue, so I don't actually quite remember which uh, regions are based on which real countries. But what could be interesting? That's a good question, actually. I'll have to think about that. Because, I mean, there is only so much distinction between certain countries. Like, Canada isn't that different from America as far as like what things look like in that place, whereas like Hawaii's culture is very distinct from America's culture. So, and obviously they've already covered a lot of Japan in previous regions. And I think it's interesting that they also did some like historically based region kind of stuff in some of the spin-off games. But I don't know. Oh hey Orem. Oh hey Orem. Oh hey Orem. Even Orem said oh hey Orem. Hey Orem, are you excited about a Pokemon font? One of these days I'm gonna make a tutorial on like good vector work, like good anchor point placement and how to be familiar with the pen tool and things like that, because a lot of people don't quite understand some of the nuances of making good paths. And I'm not saying my paths are perfect or anything, but I get the fundamentals to the point where I typically can just look at a shape and know where the anchor point should go and where the handles should extend to. The nice thing about glyphs is that they make it very easy to create a lot of different weights. And by weight, I mean things like bold and light and ultra light and black and ultra bold and whatever they want to call it, heavy, medium. Um, because you can just interpolate between the heaviest and lightest weight to create all of the intermediate weights. So I'm probably going to end up doing that at some point with this one. And they also make it easy to do things like accents, like accent variations of letters. You can just create like an anchor and then just apply accents to all of the appropriate characters, which makes it a lot easier. The nice thing about this typeface in particular is that because it's so kind of surreal and wacky, um, some of the contours can get away with being a little less clean. All right, Ebb Boy. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you drop into some of the future streams for this. In fact, I'm not actually sure how much longer I'm going to be streaming. I don't want this stream to go on like 3 hours or whatever, because if I have to end up editing anything, I'd like to not take 5 years for this to export, so I'll probably keep these to like an hour and a half. This one's not perfect yet, but I'm going to move on. A lot of the tweaking I'm going to end up doing in glyphs because they have some tools that make it a lot easier to do a lot of the more nuanced things, like making sure curves are consistent. Like you can see the diminishing radius. You can visualize the diminishing radius of a turn or a curve very easily using some of the plugins in glyphs. Yes, it's very difficult to do like very painstaking work and also read chat. With Bethesda announcing continued support on Switch, what would you like to see if they got access to Nintendo IP? Ooh, that is a very good question. If they actually licensed the IP out to Bethesda to make an original game based on a Nintendo property, like what if the Doom devs made a Metroid game or something? That's a good question. I'm not sure that someone like the Doom devs are necessarily the best equipped to create a Metroid game, just because Metroid is less about fast-paced action shooting and more about atmosphere and exploration. That's not to say that combat can't be a focus or a facet of a Metroid game that gets a lot of care, but I feel like they'd have to have their hands held pretty tightly by Nintendo for a Metroid game. Just like the creators of Samus Returns, they mentioned that Nintendo was very, very strict about how they used certain things and how they did certain things. And they even went as far as to say that Nintendo made them a better developer because of how strict and strenuous they were, which is interesting. So I don't know. I mean, Bethesda on a Zelda game could be interesting, but I feel like so much of the spirit of Zelda is sort of that whimsical wackiness that isn't every Zelda game that I don't think Bethesda would be able to capture, whereas Ubisoft has sort of that childlike spirit that made Rabbids and Mario work so well together. So I feel like Bethesda might not be the best fit for a Nintendo IP. But you know what? I can't say that I'd be against it. But even like with Metroid Prime and Retro and the differences that the creative differences that Retro Studios had with Nintendo, a lot of the higher ups before they left Retro Studios, like the Western take on Metroid is very different from what Sakamoto had in mind when he created Metroid stuff back in the day. And so Sakamoto kind of feels like the Prime trilogy is sort of non-canon, which is interesting. I don't know. I could go on about it, but what do I think of Mario Odyssey? I think it looks great. I'm very much looking forward to playing Mario Odyssey. I wish people would stop spoiling things about it in their thumbnails. You probably saw me tweet about thumbnail spoilers. Basically, there was a thumbnail that had a boss in it, and I'm like, come on, that's something that people want to discover for themselves. Don't put that in the thumbnail. Because part of the discovery of a boss in Mario is simply the character design, because character design in Mario is so whimsical and fun, and having a character design spoiled is sort of a big deal. Like, leave that up to the player. I think a couple days ago I forgot to hit save as often as I should, and I lost like 15 characters in a crash. It was the worst. And I tweeted about the whole spoiler thumbnail thing, and some people responded like, well, part of that is that people won't click on a video unless they have something interesting that they haven't seen before. But if the views you're getting are just angry people saying, "I can't believe you spoiled that for me," is that view really worth the money? And I mean, the answer to that's probably yes, because some people don't really care so much about the viewer; they just want the ad revenue. But I don't know. It's hard to be principled and still make money. It's one of those difficult things in life. I think one of the reasons somebody asked me this question before of why a lot of the other Pokemon knockoff fonts look bad. And I think I could go more into detail on that. I think it's because a lot of people, when they see the Pokemon logo, they just see, like, oh, wacky letter forms. I can make a bunch of those wacky letter forms in general. And they don't see the conventions that were established in the logo that they should follow, like how they handle serifs, like on the top of a stem, like on a P and on the K. And so they don't create those rules by which other characters' shapes would follow. And so I think that's part of the problem. They just don't understand how to create a rule set for a font, because that's really what a font is, just a collection of rules that dictate how to draw a certain letter. And without those rules, and without properly interpreting what those rules are, you create characters that don't follow the same rules that were necessarily established by the original designer of the logo. And so what I'm trying to do here is like figure out what those rules were in the head of the person who drew the Pokemon logo, and then follow the same rules. Or at least create a rule set that the existing letters in the Pokemon logo can follow, or already follow, even if they're not the same rules that the original designer had. If the P and the O and the K and the EM and N can abide by rules that I establish, then it doesn't necessarily have to be the same rules as the original designer, as long as they're still cohesive. Because I mean, you look at Helvetica I, it's just a rectangle. You can that falls into so many different rule sets. So Gotham's I is the same way; it's just a rectangle. So if I can make a rule set that the existing Pokemon letters fall into cleanly, then I'm good to go. I haven't actually played a Fire Emblem game, Dennis. Oh, Dennis didn't say that. Night Warrior. I haven't played a Fire Emblem game, which I feel like is probably a travesty, but you gotta understand that I'm a very busy person, and so when I make decisions about what games to play, I don't really get to play games that often anymore. That's one of the sad parts about like game designers in general. They don't actually get to play as many games as they could before they were game designers. Unless you're crazy, like Sakurai, who like works out while watching 2 TV shows at once so that he can still have time to play games. I don't know if you've heard about that story, but Sakurai's crazy. He works himself to death. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him and how hardworking he is, but I don't know if I could live like that. But I mean, sometimes that's a sacrifice you got to make if you want to be very productive in life. I couldn't tell you if Sakurai is actually gonna stop working on Smash or not. Like, I feel like it's not even worth trying to speculate on that man's career decisions. He's sort of a mystery. Oops. Out of curiosity, how many hours do you have in Splatoon 2? More than I should. In fact, that's probably a reason why some of Smashified stuff that we have on the back burner is not done yet. I am so into that game. I think I have over 200 hours, probably over 300 hours in Splatoon now. I'd have to check. I could check that right now. Or not. I'll check it later. Oh, nope, I can check it now. Now my controller is responding. Oh, did you look for me? 365 hours. That's 1 hour per day per year. And it's not been a year since the game came out. So that says a lot about me and my bad habits. Game's addicting, though. It's very good. But that definitely explains why I'm already level 50. Well, what I mean when I say I have no time to play games is that I have to be very selective with the games I play. So I don't play a lot of games. I play like Nintendo's games, and that's it. I wonder if I should even have this shape, like this 9 shape and 6 shape of commas and quotation marks, or if I should stick solely to the sort of wedge shape, which I could certainly do. It might be more in character with the Pokemon's logo and the accent, but I mean, I haven't actually finished Breath of the Wild yet. I've actually only put in like maybe 20 hours into that game because I was trying to let's play it with a friend, and then we both got busy, and so I haven't played it because I don't want to play it without let's playing it and recording progress and stuff like that. So I haven't actually touched much of Breath of the Wild, which is a little sad because I'm really into it, but I'm trying to save the experience for when I'm actually able to record. I'm not sure why I made the decision to try to let's play that game, but I made the decision, and it's unless I just want to give up on the let's play, which I kind of want to not do. I have to wait, which I'm okay with. Like, I've got plenty of other stuff to do. Oh, good question. Are they going to make an F-Zero game on Switch? Who knows? What new thing could they do? Says Miyamoto. Well, one thing is you could make better graphics. That's a new thing, which I understand that that's not necessarily the best reason to make a new game is just to improve the graphics. But I don't know, just you're offering something to your audience that they don't have access to other than Fast Racing Neo, which doesn't have some of the whimsical character design that F-Zero has. So maybe you could put a focus on that aspect, like writing a new story, fleshing out lore. Because, I mean, story is a valid way to iterate upon a franchise. It's just continuing a narrative. And I understand that that's not really been the focus of F-Zero games, but you could make it a focus. They've actually talked about, well, I should say, the question, do you think Nintendo/Intelligent Systems will ever make a new Advance Wars game? They've actually said in an interview that they would be happy to make a new one, but that they can't really stretch their team to make an Advance Wars game when Fire Emblem is a much more successful franchise in that sort of genre. But it has been something that they've at least considered. So I don't know. I can't say that they'll never make one because of that interview. We'll see. I'm very curious to see when they'll start supporting the Switch for their handheld style games. Because I think a lot of people don't quite understand that handheld isn't just like a where you play type of deal. It's also a how you play kind of thing. And the Switch can cater to that, but it does so in a slightly different way, I think, just because battery life's not as good, and it does focus on like the connectivity with your TV as well. Like, what kind of differences can you bring to the table when you have both at your disposal? But I would like to see what they do when they're focusing all of their efforts on Switch content, which I think will eventually happen, but maybe not soon. Maybe not soon enough for some people. Yeah, it seems that way, Dennis. I like to compare F-Zero uh, to like Sonic Adventure in the way it controls versus modern Sonic, like Unleashed, where he's super drifty and doesn't turn well. Which obviously presents its own sort of control problems or dilemmas. Like, is that a good way to control a character in a platformer? But um, like having really responsive controls for a game where it's all about moving very quickly can be a little weird. But Arctic Blue asks, "What's the stream about?" The stream is about me working on a new font called Project Monstrosity. That's the project name. I don't know what the font's going to be called when it's done. Maybe just Monstrosity. I don't know. But for now, it's Project Monstrosity. It's a font inspired by the Pokemon logo, and it's wholly original, unlike my first font, which was highly a serif. And so I'm creating this for the Pokemon community because I feel like they deserve a better typeface than what is currently on the internet for people to use. So taking matters in my own hands, like I oft do. That's the kind of response I want. That's one of the things that I have to be careful about when I tweet about this typeface, is because when I say I'm designing characters, I'm not designing like people characters. I'm designing letters and numbers. And so when I say I've designed 137 characters so far, people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "For a font." And then they're like, "Oh." Probably going to be stopping in like the next 10 minutes, just so you guys know. I'll be able to continue this in the next stream, I think. But for now, I'm wanting to keep this to like an hour and a half, so. Nothing wrong with flipping horizontal for something like that, right? The reason I try to keep stuff like this to my personal channel is because, for me at least, and I think for the rest of the team, the Smashify channel is for collaborative work. And this is just a project of mine. That's not to say that we couldn't change that mantra or that methodology. We could certainly put our own personal work on that channel, but the reason is because it's something that only I'm working on. And it's something that I would not want to collaborate on because I don't trust anybody else to work on something like this with me. I don't know anyone personally that is quite as passionate about good typography and gaming as myself. The rebranding. What rebranding are you talking about? Oh, the Smashify rebrand. I mean, so when I changed it from Artsy Omni to Smashify, that was sort of rebrand. The rebranding of the channel to be more broad and not just focused on Smash content is sort of on the back burner. We definitely have a lot of ideas for content that isn't just solely Smash related, but I don't know, life has gotten a little bit crazy since we last had those kinds of discussions. So, I don't know. The reason I don't flip and the reason I rotate rather than flip is because sometimes I want rotational symmetry rather than axis symmetry, because I feel like having that kind of balance can be more interesting than just having a like for the parentheses, for instance, rather than having all of the weight on this shape set on the bottom, because this is wider at the bottom, I want to balance it out so I can put some weight at the top so that it feels like even and like it won't topple in any particular direction. A lot of it has to do with like visual weight. Hopefully that makes sense. Whoops, that didn't work. Done quite a few characters today. A lot of punctuation. As you can see, I've got a lot of currency down here. It's kind of funny that the symbol for the ruble is very similar to the punctuation for the symbol for polka dollar. So, it's your birthday. Well, happy birthday, but no, I will not sing you happy birthday. Sorry. You'll have to ask someone who can sing to do that for you. I could maybe do a birthday remix, but I feel like that might be a little too much effort in Logic Pro 10. One of these days, I should just do a birthday song remix and just use it for everybody's birthday. Just like post it on their Twitter, make a big deal out of it. But hey, happy birthday, all the same. Hope you enjoy it. I know you're in a different part of the globe than me, so I don't know what day of the week it is for you, but I don't have a personal Patreon. I've considered making one for personal projects, but I feel it's a little bit weird to have two Patreon accounts, since I already have one for Smashified. But I mean, some people do it because, like, two different unrelated projects both need funding for different, like, employees and whatnot. I don't know. There's some ideas that I have in the future or for the future that maybe could use a Patreon, but I don't know. I guess I did sing in that one cover, didn't I? Um, that was very. I can't even tell you how many takes that took to do that cover because I'm not a good singer, and you can probably tell from that cover. But I did that cover because I was super into the song at the time, and I was bored. Keyword: I was bored. But yeah, that's something that's on SoundCloud for posterity to listen to, is me singing a song from a Mario game. I won't link you to it. I'll make you work for that. That would be a fun collab. I'm not sure what it would be about if Omni and I did a. That sounds funny to say. If Omni and I did a collab of some kind. Let's see. Can I finish out all of these math symbols before I finish the stream? I'm going to shoot for it. It's just a bunch of quadrilaterals, some ellipses anyway. It's not hard. There's also an EDM musician that goes by the name Omni. He's somebody that I discovered when I was still really into the My Little Pony music community. Little known fact, I enjoy that show. If you look at the Rayman League video, you'll see that I have a couple of plushes on my shelf. But yeah, there's another guy that goes by Omni that I follow on Twitter now. I mean, it's really easy to find. You can just go to soundcloud.com/artsyomni. I think it's the most recent thing on my SoundCloud. If you're really interested in hearing it. It's not great. I'll reiterate that. Alright, guys. I think I'm going to end the stream. Oh, no. Wait. I can't. I need this division sign to have some dots. Alright. Okay, guys. I think that's it for this stream. I'm going to end it off here. I hope you guys have enjoyed your time here listening to me nerd out about various topics and draw letters, which is probably one of the least interesting things that you can watch an artist do, probably. Or maybe it is interesting, I don't know. But hope you guys stop in for the next stream, which I'll hopefully be doing maybe later this week or next week. I'm not sure. It's kind of done on a whim. Yeah, so bye. See you guys.